Today's reading is from Matthew 6 verses 1 to 4. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogue and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Good morning. This week we are looking at the theme of authenticity in the Christian life, and it's a theme that Jesus devoted a lot of attention to. And he devoted a lot of attention to it not just because there were religious leaders behaving hypocritically in his day. He devoted a lot of attention to it because he knows the human heart. He knows what we're like, that we are people with murky and mixed motives at the best of times. But nevertheless, despite the fact that we have murky and mixed motives, despite the fact that the book of Proverbs says that the human heart is wicked or deceitful above all else, who can understand it? Despite that, Jesus doesn't say, therefore, don't do any of the good deeds that you know your Father in heaven wants you to do. Don't do any of the religious practices. Don't give to the poor. Don't give to the needy, because let's face it, your motives are always murky and you can never really quite be sure if you are doing it for God or doing it for people. Therefore, don't do it. He doesn't say that. Instead, he says, when you give to the needy. When you give to the needy. And this giving that he's talking about is not something he's saying if you give to the poor. He's not saying if you watch something on TV and it really motivates your heart to part with a few precious pounds from your purse, then this is how you should do it. His when recognizes that certainly in the Bible's teaching and in the Jewish practice of giving, they were expected to give a tithe, give 10% of all of their wealth as an act of worship, but then give over and above the tithe acts of offerings to God that were, their freedom, their choice. They could give what they wanted. Nevertheless, there was an expectation you give, because God entrusts us with wealth, whether large or small. But let's be honest, in the West, wealth beyond which anybody in human history has ever known. It's so gratuitous, the amount of wealth we have. He says, now, having this wealth, here's how you should use it. Give to the needy. And by the way, here's how you give to the needy. And Jesus says to them, beware of practicing your righteous deeds before others. Beware of it. He knows there is a danger to the religious life. There is a danger for the Christian that will seek to take you down and to put you on a murkier, darker path through life. And that is a form of religiosity and spirituality and devotion that is always done with half an eye as to who's watching, who's listening, who's looking. We looked at this recently on a Sunday morning when Andrew talked about Judas saying, shouldn't this money have been given to the poor? He used the phrase virtue signaling or posturing to describe how so often we behave and we treat acts of worship and acts of devotion like this. No, how do you tell the difference between virtue signaling and genuine acts of devotion and genuine conviction? I think one of the ways you tell is that it costs you something. And here in this example, what it costs you is not just the wealth that you give away to the needy, but it costs you the praise you could have got from others by keeping it to yourself. Keeping it to yourself, your acts of charity, giving to the needy, giving to the people that you come across, keeping it to yourself means that you suffer loss because you lose your wealth, and you suffer esteem because no one sees it. But in doing that, you open the possibility to the fact that God, your Father who sees, is able to reward you. And notice that Jesus doesn't say you shouldn't be doing it for reward. No. Seeking reward is a human trait. It's something we do. We like seeking reward. We like receiving good things back. Jesus does not critique our desire for reward. No. Instead, he says the reward you should be looking for is from your Father in heaven. That's the one that you should be trying to impress or get rewards from, which is good. because seeking reward is a motivating principle. There's this idea out there in philosophy of altruism, thereby that you should do something good without ever thinking about anything back in return. It's not biblical. Jesus says, do good, give to the needy, but do it seeking a reward from God, your Father in heaven. So this week, let's pursue an authentic Christian life. Let's pursue radical integrity in our devotion to Jesus, and let's pursue it by not having half an eye on what people think of us, but instead by having our entire mind fixed on, I want to please my Father in heaven. That's why I'm doing this. God bless you. Have a great day.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.